Pick already!
Welcome back to the Igloo in Pittsburgh. The 1997 NHL draft continues with the 21st pick belonging to the Buffalo Sabres. And Bob McKenzie, you talk about a team in transition. At almost every level, the Buffalo Sabres fit the bill. Management, a new general manager, Darcy Regier, maybe a new coach, although Ted Nolan is at their table. He doesn't have a new contract. It's a team that has Pat LaFontaine in the middle, but would appear to be looking for some scoring touch. They're good on D, and they've got great goaltending with Dominik Hasek.
Absolutely, but you know, it's really hard to get by and talk about the draft pick without talking about the coaching situation. Is Ted Nolan going to be back? A lot of people are saying no, that Brian Sutter is the guy who's going to get that job if he wants it. Darcy Regier, the new general manager of the Buffalo Sabres, and Brian Sutter were in each other's wedding parties. They played junior hockey together, so Sutter may well go in, take that job. I'll tell you what, the Buffalo Sabres may be playing with fire. They've got some good young talent coming. Eric Rasmussen's going to be in their lineup next year and really add some oomph and some punch. But I'll tell you what, this guy's the coach of the year. This guy's an outstanding coach. He's got to take some responsibility for the feud.
Thank the great hospitality of the Pittsburgh.
Let's hear their pick first.
Pittsburgh hockey fans. And also that we look forward to hosting the draft in 1998.
The Buffalo Sabres are proud to select from Finland, Tampere, goaltender Mika Norinen.
Mika Norinen, taken by the Buffalo Sabres. Chief Scout Don Luce announces that pick, and Norinen is another unknown.
Well, I'm only laughing a little bit because we just started talking about Ted Nolan and his problems in Buffalo, and some of them perhaps rooted in Dominik Hasek and his relationship with Hasek, and then they take a Finnish goaltender and you go, I wonder. No, I don't think so. Dominik Hasek will be back next year. Ted Nolan may not, but Mika Norinen will be a guy that they put in the farm system for a while, and he's a good one. After the goaltender Roberto Luongo was taken in the top end of the first round, some teams have Jean-Francois Damphousse as the possibility as the second goaltender. Other people like this guy, Norinen. Now, he is destined to become perhaps the best Finnish goaltender ever. That is to perhaps damn him with faint praise, putting him in the role of Terry Taco or Jarmo Milic, guys who played in the NHL but didn't play for a long time or make an impact. But Mika Norinen, this guy was excellent at the World Junior Championships, a big rangy netminder, and he is expected to be a good one. A lot of scouts very high on this guy. Jack Bowman on one side, Don Luce on the other side, and the Buffalo Sabres, an organization in some degree of turmoil as Larry Quinn and Darcy Regier try to chart the course with or without Ted Nolan.
You might say the guy on the right, Jack Bowman, looks like Scotty. He does. He's his brother. Let's go downstairs to Paul Romanek.
Hey, good-looking guy in that Buffalo uniform. The future for the franchise looks bright, and what the hockey world is asking is whether or not the coach of the year is going to be part of that future. You must feel like you're in limbo right now.
You know, very much so. You know, it's just one of those situations right now. We have a new general manager, Darcy Regier, and he's going right through the protocol as far as the interviewing process. So we met 2 or 3 times already, and like I said, it has to be some kind of consensus here next week or so.
Hey, Ted, considering all that went on, I mean, I'll just put it to you simply as I can. Do you want to come back? Do you feel like you're wanted? Do you feel like you're welcome?
Well, you know, that's one thing I say right from the end of the season. I want to come back to Buffalo, and certainly I've raised some relationships there with the players and the community within itself. So obviously that was my #1 priority. But like I said, the longer it goes on, the longer you question yourself whether it's going to work out or not. But the one thing you have to learn in hockey, I guess, have some patience, and so I'll be patient a little bit longer. And I definitely still want to be back. And if it doesn't work out, then hopefully one of these 26 teams will see it.
I think you'll find a home somewhere. By the way, congratulations. Finally, Coach of the Year. Way to go.
Well, thank you.
Darcy, how much concern did you have, first of all, of drafting a European goaltender?
Well, I think there's a couple concerns, first-round goaltenders and a European, but our staff felt very strongly about this young man, so at the end, it wasn't a big concern. Bob
McKenzie and others have referred to him as a Sean Burke type of goaltender. Who would you compare him to?
Well, that's what our staff has said, stand-up type, Kirk McLean, Sean certainly, but I think we've got a good goaltender here.
Well, we see Ted Nolan, the Coach of the Year here. What's the situation with him as far as coming back next year?
Well, we're in discussions, ongoing discussions right now, and certainly Ted had an outstanding year, as did the Buffalo Sabre organization. Had some difficulties, some problems. Those are the things that we're working through right now.
Good luck, Darcy.
Thank you.
All right, next 2 picks belong to the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, folks, get a pen and a piece of paper out because we're going to explain exactly how this works for you. The Detroit Red Wings sent Keith Primo and Paul Coffey to Hartford in exchange for Brendan Shanahan and their first-round draft pick went with that as well. So Hartford got Detroit's first-round pick. But Paul Coffey wasn't happy in Hartford, so he went on to Philadelphia in exchange for the Flyers' first-round draft pick. So Hartford had 2 first-round picks, except Hartford moved to Carolina. And so now the Carolina...
And of course, Hartford didn't have their own first-round pick.
Because they lost.
They got that on the Glenn Wesley deal a few years ago.
And so what you have now is the Carolina Hurricanes, the former Hartford Whalers, who have the first-round picks, the next 2 picks of the Philadelphia Flyers and the Detroit Red Wings. Everyone got that? Sounds good to me. And there's the new logo of the Carolina Hurricanes. There has been some snickering at that logo from some of the other draft tables. It is the Hurricane symbol. And what they'd like to do is upgrade their size and their team defense as well. But the Hartford Whalers have a chance here because although they have 2 picks late, they've got a chance to really do something.
The Hartford Whalers or the Carolina Hurricanes?
Forgive me, the Carolina Hurricanes.
There you go. At least we didn't call Daniel Tkachuk Keith Tkachuk today, so we're safe there. They would have liked to have taken a guy like Stefan Chernesky, a goal-scoring winger. As we get a look at Peter Karmanos, the owner of the team, going up with Jim Rutherford and Sheldon Ferguson to make this pick. How about Harold Druken as a name, another native Newfoundlander who played for the Detroit Whalers, the junior franchise that's owned by CompuWare, which also owns the Carolina Hurricanes. Brendan Morrow from the Portland Winterhawks, goal-scoring winger. Or another guy from the University of North Dakota, the NCAA champions, Brad Defoe. These are some considerations for the Whalers with back-to-back picks, number 22 and number 23 overall.
This is the Detroit pick, 22nd overall. And the pick will be made by General Manager Jim Rutherford.
The Carolina Hurricanes are pleased to select from the Canadian Hockey League, the Belleville Bulls, Nicholas Chelios.
Nick Chelios. Sounds the same, spelled differently, but he is related to Chris Chelios. They're cousins. It's T-S-E-L-I-O-S, and he is taken by the Carolina Hurricanes.
Now you can see the family resemblance as he gets a hug from his family, his brothers, all up from Chicago for this. A member of the Belleville Bulls and a guy who maybe slipped a little further than some thought. This guy is a big, rangy defenseman. The size of him, 6'3.5", 187 pounds. Like a lot of kids his age, that big, that have grown that fast, he's clumsy, he's awkward, sometimes trips over his feet. But that's now, and in a couple of years, he's expected to be a lot more polished. His strength is going back, getting the puck out of his own end, and handling it, making the right decision. Doesn't play with the same sort of wild-eyed intensity all the time as his cousin does, but certainly isn't afraid to mix it up either. But his strength is as a puck handler and a smart, mobile blue liner behind the net, behind the blue line.
Well, you think he's a Chelios? They asked him who he'd most like to meet, and he said, Quentin Tarantino, the film director who did Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. So yes, he's a definite Chelios. He's got that wild side to him. So clearly the Carolina Hurricanes, we talked about one of their needs was some help on D, and he should help to provide that. Now he'll put on that brand new Carolina Hurricanes uniform. As well, we should point out, when the Hurricanes announced their name, there was some controversy, and look at this. The logo is the NHL logo. So he does not put on the Carolina Hurricanes logo.
Yeah, I guess the jersey's not ready yet. That's kind of odd. They've got the logos unveiled, but the sweater's not here.
And now there's a lot of laughter going on here at the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh. Just to finish the story, a lawyer in the Carolina area trademarked the name Carolina Hurricanes a week before it was announced. So now the owners of the Hurricanes have reached an out-of-court settlement, and they will in fact be the Carolina Hurricanes, but the sweaters apparently got lost in the mail. Now the Hurricanes have the next pick as well, the 23rd pick that they got from the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange from Paul Coffey. And right now let's go down to Paul Romanek.
Congratulations. The boys were talking about you being a big Quentin Tarantino fan. Do we look for some kind of a reflection in your play? Do you have sort of a Reservoir Dog streak to you?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I'm the quiet type, but I think the fierceness is going to come out of me now this season, and I think a lot of people are going to be impressed.
You face something that a lot of big men do, and that is, I think they sometimes expect more out of you physically than you're able to give at this age. Fair comment?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of it is expect you to be bigger and stronger, but I think for me, I got more skill and a lot of bigger players, and I think that's what helps me the most.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
By the way, gentlemen, in terms of the NHL logo on the front, I'm told the official logo was only approved 10 days ago, so they didn't have time to get it ready.
All right, thank you, Paul. And there is a look at the logo of the Carolina Hurricanes. We saw Jim Rutherford, the general manager, a moment ago, talking to Dean Lombardi of the San Jose Sharks. I hope Chelios doesn't like Reservoir Dogs too much. A guy got his ear cut off in that movie, and now Rutherford was bending the ear of Dean Lombardi. So we'll see if maybe Rutherford wants to make a deal.
Well, all things considered, the Carolina Hurricanes would have preferred to take a forward with that pick, but they've got another one, so I would suspect that they'll probably go that route here. Chelios is a guy who maybe slipped down and that the Hurricanes didn't anticipate having at that particular moment in time. When he became available, decided to go ahead, even though their depth is on the blue line. Last year, no first-round pick. Of course, that went to the Boston Bruins. Year before that, they had Jean-Sébastien Giguère, a fine young goaltender from the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, the goaltender of the future for the Whalers. And now Jim Rutherford makes his way up, and some of those same names that I mentioned the last time out would be considerations here. Well, Harold Druken, Brad Defoe.
Or maybe even Christian Huselius from Sweden, who's a player that a lot of people like.
There's a lot of them. Back to the San Jose Shark table.
Well, it's interesting to note, we talked about Jeff O'Neill being selected earlier. The pick after him was Ryan Smith, who scored 40 goals for the Edmonton Oilers. So the Hurricanes hope that some of their young prospects will move along a little quicker. But now they've got a real chance here, late in the first round, to make a deal or to make a pick. And I would suggest they've probably made a deal since they're talking to Brian Burke with Dean Lombardi. The deal has to be approved by the league first.
There's also many regulations in terms of when you can make a trade, when the clock starts in terms of when the next pick is going to go. They're obviously going to Brian Burke for some clarification or to simply go ahead and produce this trade.
The San Jose Sharks had the second pick overall in this draft. They took Patrick Marleau of the Seattle Thunderbirds. So now Jim Rutherford and Dean Lombardi appear to be outlining the nature of this trade.
San Jose Sharks also have the 28th overall pick, which is the second pick in the first round. You never know in these circumstances. Quite often you see a flip-flop. There's maybe a player that the San Jose Sharks want right now they don't think will be available at 28. They flip-flop picks, and there may be some other consideration to give a later round pick as extra compensation or some sort of utility player that could help the Hurricanes.
With any trade made now in the National Hockey League, NHL Central Registry has to be involved. There are contract issues that have to be sorted out. And as a result of the Eric Lindros fiasco at the draft a few years ago, now, before you make any trade, it must go through the league before being announced. Now Rutherford's going back to his table.
Well, we do have some unapproved trades that have been talked about today. We believe they have been made but not confirmed yet by the league. That includes Rick Tabaracci going from the Tampa Bay Lightning back to the Calgary Flames for a draft pick. Also Sean Burr going to San Jose.
Here's Gary Bettman.
Carolina.
Rutherford walked back to the microphone on his table. All picks in the first round are supposed to be made at the podium. This is Sheldon Ferguson, their chief scout.
Carolina transfers the pick to San Jose.
So we have a trade. The Carolina Hurricanes have traded their first-round pick to the San Jose Sharks. Now the question, for whom? For what?
Good question, Gord.
And there doesn't appear to be any hurry announcing it.
Well, the Sharks look as though they know what they're doing. Tim Burke heads up. The slip is in the hands of Commissioner Gary Bettman, and Tim Burke, the chief scout of the San Jose Sharks, heads to the podium. Roman Lyashenko, a good Russian center, a very strong two-way player, is a possibility. Some players waiting to hear their names called include Adam Kolojakow of the Oshawa General, Scott Barney, the Peterborough Petes. Two guys who started the year as top-end prospects are now in danger of falling out of the first round. Got some Tim Burke to make the call.
From the Kelowna Rockets, Scott Hannon.
Scott Hannon of the Kelowna Rockets, who you had ranked 30th overall, Bob, goes to the San Jose Sharks, who deal for the pick. So the pick goes from the Philadelphia Flyers through the Carolina Hurricanes to the San Jose Sharks. And Scott Hannon has been selected by the Sharks. So he'll join Patrick Marleau as Shark first-rounders in this draft.
Well, Scott Hannon is a 6'1", 210-pound defenseman, and he's basically a stay-at-home guy. Very steady, nothing spectacular or flashy about him.
Scott Hannon, by the way, will become one of the 3 players taken by the San Jose Sharks in the top 28 in this draft, presuming the Sharks haven't flipped that 28th pick over to Carolina. But Jim Rutherford, the general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, is standing by with Gary Green to shed some light on this. Gary?
Well, Jim, can you tell us what the deal is and what it's flipped around to?
Well, we just moved a little ways down in the draft. We're going to have San Jose's second pick. We have a group of guys there that we like equally, and we don't know which one we're going to get when we pick in the second round, but it'll be one of the guys that we could have taken with that pick.
Is there any other compensation for that?
Yeah, we get a pick in next year's draft also.
Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about your draft pick, Chelios.
Well, we're very surprised that he was still there. I mean, obviously we thought he was going to Chicago, but he didn't, and as the draft kept going, he slid to us. We weren't really looking for a defenseman, we were looking for forwards, but where we had him rated, we couldn't pass on him.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Big smile for Scott Hannon, and more tears from his parents as they can look on and know that he won't be that far away. He's a Kelowna Rocket, will play for San Jose, at least on the same side of the continent. Dean Lombardi with Paul Romanek.
Dean, what was the impetus for the deal? You got a guy described, I think, as steady, not flashy. Did you feel you had to have him?
Well, it's a question of a player that, you know, we had rated fairly high, that it was in an area that was projected to probably go late in the first round. And looking at our depth chart in terms of getting a good North American young defenseman, this was a guy we felt we could put in our system that has a lot of potential. So instead of waiting back and leaving it to chance, we decided to be a little more aggressive and try and get our guy.
Anything else involved in the deal? Any flip of draft picks? Are you going to hang on to everything?
No, we flipped. We've given Hartford our Carolina our 28th and a 3rd next year.
Congratulations. Thanks.
Okay.
So we waited more than 2 hours to get our first deal, but lots of players have deals in their minds too as they're wearing the sweaters of their new teams at the NHL draft.
Don't let love pass you by.
On their journey to the X Games, Mike Mitchell and Lawrence Fry really enjoyed the X Games soundtrack album. 16 modern cuts on one CD, featuring new tracks from Bush, Goldfinger, Sublime,
So love the one you got, 'cause you might
and Chronic Future. Also Civ, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Potted Helmet, Wu-Tang Clan, Public Enemy, and more.
X Games, the soundtrack album, on sale now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the sound and the fury. Now we have a precursor. On my right, JT. On my left, we have Snatch. Gentlemen, get down. Let's get it on. One man pummeling the other. A spectacular extravaganza. A super duper promotion. Just give them a premium lager. Call Gold. Unparalleled, unprecedented. The Premium Gold.
New Gold Premium Beer.
On the big board, the names of 7 centers. We expected this to be a draft of centers. It has been, starting with the number 1 pick, Joe Thornton, and the number 2 pick, Patrick Marleau. And now the next pick on the board belongs to the New Jersey Devils, taking in the number 24 spot. And the Devils are having an extended conversation down there, Bob.
Well, one consideration at this point could be a goaltender, and there's certainly no guarantee. When you look at Martin Brodeur and Mike Dunham and some of the goaltenders that they've had through the system, it's not a pressing need, but expansion is coming, and in expansion, teams tend to lose goaltenders, and as a result, that might be a consideration here. Some good young players coming through the New Jersey Devils system. Brendan Morrison from the University of Michigan. Patrick Elias, who we saw play in the playoffs this year and do some damage, as did Peter Sikora. So Lots of good talent in the New Jersey Devils system, a team that traditionally will go off the board for its picks quite often. It doesn't always follow Central Scouting or any of the other consensus picks. They're very independent mindset of the New Jersey Devils will often take somebody who's rated much lower than he otherwise would go anywhere else.
To select from the Canadian Hockey League, from Moncton, Jean-Francois Damphousse.
A goaltender, Bob, and we mentioned that goaltending depth might be an issue. Jean-Francois Damphousse is taken by the New Jersey Devils. Central Scouting had him ranked as the second goaltender. The first, Roberto Luongo, was taken fourth by the New York Islanders.
Well, Roberto Luongo is a real big guy, 6'3", 180-odd pounds, and you can see the difference between he and Jean-Francois Damphousse. They both play the butterfly style, but one guy is 3 inches smaller and 40 pounds lighter than Roberto Luongo. But Damphousse is a very good one, very mobile guy, played very well, and comes out of that Quebec League goaltending factory. And one more guy, one more asset that a team like the New Jersey Devils can stockpile because they certainly don't need him right now.
Well, New Jersey fans will look at his goals against average at 5.53 and say, what are they doing taking that guy? But remember, two things. Number one, this is the Quebec Major Junior League where goals are scored at a very rapid pace. Number two, a lot of goaltenders have come out of that league with awful goals against averages because they played for bad teams, and Moncton might qualify as one of those. Patrick Waugh's goals against average in the Quebec League was over 4. So certainly Jean-Francois Damphousse comes out of a province that has sent lots of great goaltenders to the NHL, including Martin Brodeur to New Jersey. You see David Conti there, the assistant general manager. And the first-round pick of the Devils, Jean-Francois Damphousse.
Damphousse played his minor hockey with the St. Foy Gouverneur, and that's notable because that's the same organization that did produce Patrick Waugh.
Jean-Francois Damphousse.
He didn't start out as the #1 goaltender. His parents, Alain and Lynn, very proud of their son. His performance this year with the team allowed them to trade their #1 veteran goaltender, Jean-Sébastien Aubin, in mid-season, and it was that point that Damphousse took over, really grabbed the ball and started to run with it.
And it's worth noting, too, that when you look at goaltenders, from the day you draft them, they're usually at least 4 to 5 years away from playing in the National Hockey League. So the Devils probably are thinking about down the road an expansion when you'll only be allowed to protect a couple. Lou Lamoriello is with Gary Green.
Lou, this kid certainly saw a lot of shots this year anyway. Did you get a chance to see him a lot?
Yes, we did, and this is a future selection. There's no question. With expansion coming, and we all know how important goaltenders are, and we think that we have certainly one of the better goaltending coaches in the game right now, and we feel he's going to be able to communicate with him and get him to where we think he can be down the road. We're certainly not looking for a goaltender at this point with Martin Brodeur and Mike Dunham, but we feel down the road he can be a heck of a goaltender.
Thanks very much, Lou.
Many interesting moves made today. How about teams like Buffalo and New Jersey taking goaltenders, obviously, for the future? 15 forwards so far, 6 defensemen, and 3 goaltenders have been selected. Our first-round coverage continues from Pittsburgh right after this.
Listen, Pierre, we Americans like high fiber, low cholesterol, high protein, low fat, vitamins, minerals, iron. Gotta have your iron. Always gotta have iron. Sneeze. Big Trotter, Chips brand. Ah! You better get this food thing fixed, because I know the sponsor, and I'll be back. Where's the can?
In a world of change, who can you rely on? Perhaps a company that millions already do. A company whose expertise, vision, and innovation make it a world leader in insurance and investment, managing $450 billion in assets in more than 50 countries. AXA. Here you know us as the Equitable. AXA. Go ahead. You can rely on us.
So then Doris is driving it, and she says, "But Elliot, I can't do the road." And I said, "But what do you expect? It's a luxury car." Anyway, we then drive it down to the road. Have you ever driven down?
Bored with traditional luxury? It could be time for the supercharged Bonneville, one of the world's most powerful sports sedans.
Do you drive a luxury car, Frank?
You bet your ascot I do. Luxury with attitude. The Bonneville by Pontiac.
Next up at the National Hockey League's 1997 entry draft, the Dallas Stars, who last year picked 5th, this year picked 25th. That's what you get when you improve that dramatically in the standings. Bob Gainey is the team's general manager. There has been intense speculation over the last couple of weeks that he is the first choice of the Toronto Maple Leafs to become their new GM to replace Cliff Fletcher. Now, Bob Gainey is under contract to the Dallas Stars, and so right now his focus is on Big D.
Well, wingers with size and touch are something that they need. They like to get some goal scorers. Greg Adams, the only winger with more than 20 goals last year, and as such, one of the guys that they might want to consider in this particular spot is Portland Winterhawk winger Brendan Morrow. This guy can score some goals. They've got some guys coming. Jason Botterill finally graduating from the University of Michigan coming up, and Sergei Gusov back on defense.
And you can see the Dallas Stars with their...
Ain't no looking.
I wish my eyes were better. I could steal some of their picks.
From the Canadian Hockey League, Portland Winterhawks, Brendan Morrow.
Well, you called it, Bob, as Chief Scout Craig Button makes the call. Brendan Morrow, the Portland Winterhawks, a left winger, goes to the Dallas Stars, number 25 in this first round of the NHL draft.
Hey, what's not to like about a guy they call Chunks and he has a weight problem? And you don't say anything here.
Okay.
Has been as much as 230 pounds in the past, now down to 195 pounds. He's fighting a constant battle of the bulge. This is a kid who has a tough time pushing himself away from the dinner table and has the metabolism that doesn't really allow him to lose weight quickly, but he's been able to do it, and it's going to be something that he's going to have to watch consistently. But he's a talented hockey player. He can score goals, and he's got a great work ethic and a lot of spirit and a lot of character, and that's what the Dallas Stars are looking for, is somebody that can put the puck in from the wing, and this guy's a distinct possibility, looking slim and trim and where he wants to be on draft day.
And that's important, and no doubt that helped him greatly. The difference between being a first-round pick and going into second is dramatic in terms of prestige and in terms of finances. You'll always have that prestige of being a first-round pick that follows you. And if it doesn't work out with the first organization, you say someone's a first-round pick, and it'll always carry some weight.
Not exactly a prototypical first-round pick, even late in the first round, because he is 5'11". Traditionally, you're looking for players that are 6 feet or more. But I'll tell you what, Stefan Chernesky, just barely 6 feet. Brendan Morrow, 5'11". There's also a shortage in this draft of guys that can really put the puck in the net. Brendan Morrow can do it. Stefan Chernesky can do it. So teams like the Dallas Stars are prepared to look by that lack of size and strength and hope that the compensation is that the guy can score the goals that they need. He's got to improve his quickness. That's going to be a factor for a guy that's a stocky 5'11", 195, but this guy's got a good chance to be a player.
Here's Brendan Morrow with Paul Romanuk.
Hey, congratulations. In under the wire in the first round. Did you think you'd go in the first round based on discussions with teams?
I thought I had a pretty good interview with Dallas, and things went pretty good. I wasn't sure. I was sliding quite a bit. I just cut the last end. I'm really pumped, excited right now, though.
Well, you're looking lean and mean. I understand you used to tip the scales up around 230. You've gotten the weight down underneath. Is that a battle for you? Is it something you have to stay on top of?
No, I never really looked at it as a problem, but then when I was 16, someone said something to me, and I worked out hard for about a year and a half, and it's under control now. I feel good.
Good luck.
Thanks.
And now we come to the last pick of the first round. It goes to the team that finished first overall this season, the Colorado Avalanche. Coach Mark Crawford down at the Colorado table. And you talk about a team that's got few needs and lots of prospects. The Avalanche fit the bill. I mean, although they did lose to Detroit in the Western Conference Final, this is a team that is very well rounded. You see Michel Goulet to Mark Crawford's right. He plays a major role for this team. Maybe some grit, but they've got lots of that coming. And a team that has Patrick Waugh in goal has another kid coming who should be dynamite. Mark Denis, no team wins because of one player, but he almost single-handedly carried his Chicoutimi team to the Memorial Cup. Joseph Mara had a great year as well. And Brad Larson is a guy they were not able to re-sign. Now, Colorado has two players that they've drafted in the last couple of years who they have not been able to re-sign, who have gone back in the draft. Brad Larson is one. John Tripp of the Oshawa Generals is another. So Colorado has lost a couple of prospects.
Dave Draper and Michel Goulet spend a lot of time scouting all across Canada, but Michel Goulet, who has a great influence in that organization, spends a lot of time in Quebec. How about a defenseman, Jean-Francois Fortin? He's a possibility.
Here's Dave Draper.
Colorado Avalanche are proud to select from the Kingston Frontenacs, Kevin Grimes.
All right, Kevin Grimes gets the call from Dave Draper. Kevin Grimes is one of the toughest players available in this draft. A major league tough guy. Very rough around the edges in terms of skill level and all those other nice finesse things that you talk about a hockey player. But Kevin Grimes is a big-time tough guy. And certainly in this instance, the Colorado Avalanche were looking to fill a role. One of the players that they put back in the draft was John Tripp. John Tripp of the Oshawa Generals is a guy they couldn't sign. They couldn't come to financial terms with him. He's a big physical guy, and he was expected to fill a physical role for them. But he's now back in the draft, likely to go in the second or third round. Kevin Grimes was consensus second-round choice. But when you're picking 26th overall in the first round, and you see something that you particularly want, an element that you want, and that is toughness, you just go ahead, you take it, you don't worry about it, because you know this guy's not likely to be around at pick number 52, which is the next time the Avalanche come up.
You talk about going off the board, though. He was ranked 34th among forwards and defensemen in North America by Central Scouting. You had him ranked 47th overall, so a good dozen players ranked ahead of him on your list and Central Scouting's list. See him go first.
Absolutely, and again, it comes back, if you're looking for one specific element, and that is a tough guy, this is the guy to take. And teams like the Colorado Avalanche have a lot of confidence in their ability to say, hey, we're not concerned about scoring. We've got Peter Forsberg, we've got Valerie Kaminsky, Claude Lemieux. They have Joe Sakic, although it's worth pointing out Joe Sakic is a restricted free agent on July 1st. They have a long and arduous contract negotiation to come up with Joe Sakic and his agent Don Baisley. That'll be a big thing for them to watch over the course of the summer.
Mark Crawford, the coach of the Colorado Avalanche, is with Gary Green.
Mark, what do you know about your draft pick?
Well, we hear he's a very robust style defenseman with some good toughness and good mobility. Our scouts tell us that he really progressed as the year went on, and that's what you look for, especially when you're drafting this late in the first round. I think potential is the key word that you look for with a player that late.
Let's talk about off-season tinkering now. I mean, with your hockey club, are you going to lose some of your free agents, do you believe? And what do you need to improve in your hockey club?
Well, you look at our team last year, we won the Stanley Cup, and we made 7 changes over the course of the summer and early in the season. So there's no doubt that the way hockey is now, that there are going to be some changes. Hopefully we can keep them to a minimum.
Thanks, Mark.
Folks, Kevin Grimes, first rounder in the Ontario Hockey League draft, first rounder in the NHL draft. You got to love it.
I am loving it. I don't know. I never thought I'd be standing here today. I didn't expect this. You know, I'm real happy to slip into the first round. It was unexpected.
You're a guy who plays with a lot of intensity. You're tough. One thing I've read about you is that you have to play smart tough. Do you acknowledge that's something you have to work on?
Yeah, it is something I have to work on. I think this year I took a lot on discipline penalties at the wrong time, and it's something I need to work on, but it's part of my game, playing intense, playing physical, and I'm going to take some of those penalties once in a while.
Hey, double first rounder. You remember that the rest of your life.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Colorado adds some grit, and the picking will just keep on going. The first round has come to a conclusion, but we've got lots more to come on the live coverage of the NHL entry draft.
We encourage all of our clients to use cable advertising. It helps them to sell their products and services. Also, it's an economical way for smaller businesses to advertise in their markets.
Make the most of your advertising dollar. Advertise on cable. It works.
Rev your engines, Pittsburgh. For motorsports apparel and collectibles, it's Racing Fan. One lap around the store and you'll find everything for race fans. For the newest in NASCAR to the latest from the National Hot Rod Association and Formula One, visit Racing Fan. From an incredible supply of indie merchandise to die-cast collectibles waiting for the checkered flag, you'll find it at Racing Fan, next to Kmart in Parkway Center Mall.
Visit the newest Racing Fan in Northway Mall.
Getting involved romantically with the people we cover, which is a pretty good policy, but it happens. Think about Charlie Steiner. It's cliche to say say love is beautiful, but what Charlie has is beautiful.
Okay. The first round is complete of the 1997 NHL entry draft. You're watching live coverage on TSN in Canada and ESPN2 in the United States. So the best 26 players, well, the 26 players wanted most by teams in the National Hockey League have been selected. There have been some surprises, but first of all, what we expected. We talked about it being a draft of centers. It certainly looks to be that way when you start with Joe Thornton and 7 more in the first round.
Absolutely. Joe Thornton, obviously the key acquisition of the Boston Bruins. But I'll tell you what, I really like the fact that the Boston Bruins were also able to pick up Sergei Samsonov with the 8th pick overall. I think the fans in Boston have really got something to look forward to. They got 2 exciting offensive hockey players who can really turn the fans on their ear, guys that can pull you right out of your seat, and they should be able to play next year. Now, whether Thornton can contribute and how much he can contribute next year remains to be seen, but he will play on the Boston Bruins, certainly start the season with them. And Samsonov at least played professional hockey last year, so I would suspect he too will be in the lineup. And all of a sudden, that team that lacks so much depth up front has really added a couple of blue chippers in my mind.
And Joe Thornton hanging in there through the draft. He was the #1 player taken. That was nearly 3 hours ago. And let's take you through the picks, first of all, by position. 7 centers, 4 left wingers, 5 right wingers. So when you look at it, 16 of the top 26 players were forwards, 7 defense, and 3 goaltenders. But of note, Roberto Luongo becomes the highest goaltender ever taken. He was picked 4th overall by the New York Islanders with a pick they acquired from the Toronto Maple Leafs. 19 Canadian major junior players taken, 2 U.S. juniors. No U.S. college players went in this draft in the first round. The first one was taken with the first pick of the second round. Ben Clymer of the University of Minnesota was taken by Boston. But, you know, a couple years ago, Bob, everyone was talking about what's wrong with Canadian junior hockey. How come all the players are from Europe or U.S. college? Well, look at this.
Yeah, and a stellar day for the Canadian Hockey League. And I'll tell you something else, Gord. It's something that's going to continue in the future, and the reason is very simple. The United States, USA Hockey, is now getting more and more away from the scholastic system for developing hockey players. They're not going to the high school and college system. More and more players like Paul Mara, like Jamie Langenbrunner, who left Minnesota and played for the Peterborough Petes and went on to the Dallas Stars, are now going to Canadian junior hockey. And it's to the point where USA Hockey is now developing under 18 and under 17 ongoing national team programs modeled after Canadian junior hockey. They want to hothouse their talent. They want to get players like Brian Leach out of the prep school environment where they're playing against weak competition, and they want to get them against really strong competition, and that quite often is Canadian-style junior hockey. So that is a move and a trend that's happening in the United States hockey. There will continue to be a lot of Americans taken. They just necessarily won't be taken from high school and college teams. Now it'll be more Canadian junior teams, or in the future, the ongoing national team programs of the United States under 18 and under 17.
All right, so a big day for Canadian major junior hockey, and a big day, too, for some high-profile Europeans who gambled and won. Sergei Samsonov and Robert Dome came over to North America and played in the International Hockey League. A lot of people wondered how it would affect them. Both taken in the first round of the NHL draft. Back with more after this.
Hello, Pizza Hut. How much is one of your new pizzas?
$8.99.
I want pepperoni. With pepperoni.
$8.99.
Sausage. Pepperoni and sausage.
$8.99.
Peppers. Pepperoni sausage. And pepper.
$8.99.
Mushroom.
$8.99.
$8.99.
Mushrooms, that's $8.99.
Now you can get one of our totally new medium pizzas for just $8.99. Topped any way you want.
How much for a second?
Any medium pizza topped your way, just $8.99.
Soccer sure has changed since I played. 30-foot rises. Contracting goals. This game is nothing like we could have ever imagined. And it all started with All Sport.
All Sport, with a third more carbs than Gatorade. The game will never be the same.
USS owners call 1-888-USSB-PPV or call your cable or satellite company.
Well, they look like the Maytag repairmen down there. The Toronto Maple Leafs aren't scheduled to pick until number 57, but the next pick does belong to them. It's the 30th draft pick. The Philadelphia Flyers got this one in exchange for Dmitry Yushkevich. Now, they got a first-round pick last year, a second-round pick this year. Last year, they took Dinas Zubras, who was a pretty major part of their team this year. Now they've got the number 30 pick in this draft, courtesy of the Toronto Maple Leafs, who aren't scheduled, as we mentioned, to draft 57th, but Maple Leaf fans can follow the progress of Roberto Luongo and whoever goes next, because they were acquired with high Toronto picks in this draft.
Yeah, and that's ultimately one of the reasons why Cliff Fletcher's not here running this draft. It's got to be a difficult day for Cliff Fletcher, so much a part of the National Hockey League community and establishment for so long, not to be here on draft day where he did some of his finest work in a very illustrious career. But whatever happened in Toronto, they started giving up on the future. They made that trade for Yushkevich, and it has been basically an utter disaster. And certainly the trade with the New York Islanders that had brought the Islanders the 4th overall pick is another one that can be classified as an unmitigated disaster, although Matthew Schneider will be a good player for them for years to come.
You saw Anders Hedberg down there, the European scout for the Toronto Maple Leafs, highly regarded by a number of teams in the National Hockey League. Last year, Toronto didn't have a draft pick until the second round, took Marek Pozmak, a guy that they think can play for them in the future. Also, without a pick in the first round, the Philadelphia Flyers, who are just about to pick now with the pick they got from Toronto in the draft last year. So the Philadelphia Flyers have taken a player out of Cornell University, Jean-Marc Peltier, a goaltender, who's a pretty good one. So the Toronto Maple Leafs, with their 2 picks, see goaltenders taken by other teams.
It's an interesting pick by the Flyers. Jean-Marc Peltier is a guy who was the backup goaltender for the Cornell Big Red in the NCAA last year. Didn't play very much, and again, this was a case where when he did play, people liked him, but because he was a number 2 goalie and is expected to be the number 2 goalie there again, they weren't sure. So that's why this guy was a bit of a sleeper pick. However, he's got a lot of talent, and a lot of people believe he'll go back down to the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League and become a number 1 goaltender for one of the teams in the Quebec League. And the Philadelphia Flyers stocking up on some goaltending for the future. They've got Brian Boucher coming, a guy from the Tri-City Americans who played well for the U.S. at the World Junior last year. But obviously, based on what we saw in the Stanley Cup final, they need goaltending help. They're going to need some more, perhaps more immediate goaltending help than for replacement for Ron Hextall and/or Garth Snow.
And speaking of replacing someone, the first thing they've got to do is find a coach after letting Terry Murray go. Fired after taking his team to the Stanley Cup final. 2 issues there. Number 1, his comment that his team was in a choke situation. I think you can argue that that might have been taken out of context and was probably overworked. But the other thing was that it appeared that he was having trouble with star player Eric Lindros. And so Terry Murray was let go by the Philadelphia Flyers. And who do you think is the next coach in Philly?
Well, Wayne Cashman had his interview with the Philadelphia Flyers. A lot of people believe he's the leading candidate. Keith Acton is also a major consideration. The guy they call Woody, the assistant coach of the Flyers, gets along very well with Eric Lindros, and that certainly is a job requirement. Those are the 2 leading candidates. Mike Keenan's name continues to keep coming up over and over again. I would be surprised if Keenan is the guy, but then again, you just never know. Bobby Clark wants to make sure that the next step taken is the big one. They want to go back and try to win the Stanley Cup, and the selection of a coach will be of paramount importance to that.
We mentioned the Philadelphia Flyers among the many teams looking for a new head coach. There's one team looking for a general manager. We'll hear from Ken Dryden, the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs, when our live coverage of the NHL entry draft continues after this.
Foot action. People say I've got so much foot action. Once I leave the blocks, my feet never touch the ground. Why? I guess we'll never know.
Foot Action's where to get the Universe running shoe from Adidas. For every action, there's foot action.
In a lot of ways, this is a new TWA.
On time, reliable, and great service. We have a new commitment.
We're really hustling out there.
It's going to be an on-time airline if I have anything to do about it.
You've been posting better performance every month.
30 brand new state-of-the-art aircraft.
It's becoming a younger fleet with a lot of very experienced people.
We're going to take good care of you. This is our airline. We want it to be your airline.
We got to earn our customers every day. We try to do that on every flight. TWA, Trans World Airlines.
We want to be your airline.
Ice Sport, the cool, fresh scent of exhilaration.
in aftershave and deodorants. New from Aquavelva.
It might not be easy to talk to kids today, especially about marijuana. But if you don't do it, who will?
Welcome back to Pittsburgh, everyone. We are 6 picks into the second round, and the Tampa Bay Lightning, I believe they are up next. For more, let's go to Gary Green. Gary.
Ken, first of all, let me ask you as to how much input you really had in this draft today and what was said to your people.
Well, this is pretty much a scout's day, and they've been working their lists for several weeks now. And really, my involvement was in the last couple of days to really just take in the atmosphere, try to stay out of their way, listen to what the kind of discussions take place before a draft, going over players. I was in interviews yesterday with some of the players, which was really interesting. There were, I guess, 2 Russian players, 2 Czechs, and I was in with 4 or 5 North American players. And just again to experience it. What does an 18-year-old sound like in a room like that, with 7 adults who are trying to plan that kid's future? It's a pretty intimidating atmosphere, and yet these are kids who have gone through lots of intimidating things in their lives, and they've handled them pretty well, and they handle these interviews pretty well too.
Well, thank you very much, Ken, and good luck this year.
Okay, thanks very much,
guys.
All right, Gary, thanks very much. Selections continue on in the second round. More first-round analysis as well when we come back to Pittsburgh.
Know what Comcast customers can get besides great cable TV? Sprint long distance, and a deal that'll blow you away. $4 off your cable bill every month for a year when you order Sprint from Comcast. Not to mention Sprint cents with Diamond Minute rates. So call Comcast and start talking up a storm.
Call Comcast now and save $4 off your monthly cable bill for a year. Comcast, everything you connect with.
You can do great things with Track Auto.
Ever since I started going to Track Auto for quality brand name parts, my car runs so quietly.
You need a stethoscope to hear the engine.
Yeah, there it is.
But some people get carried away.
Oh yeah? Since Track turned my drums and rotors for free, and I put on these new Wagner brake shoes and pads, at 190 miles per hour, this baby will stop on a dime.
Track Auto. If you can find it on your car, you can find it in here.
Deal with it.
RPM tonight, Monday through Saturday at 7 and Sunday at 8, only on ESPN2.
There is racing in your immediate future, the Colorado 200. The Indy Racing League rolls into Denver for the Colorado 200 at Pikes Peak International Raceway. Ari Leyendyke again heads the pack for this event. Leyendyke, the winner of both the season-ending Indy 500 and this year's opening race in Texas on June 7th. It all comes your way next Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 o'clock Central and Pacific over on ABC, the Colorado 200.
Back in Pittsburgh at the 1997 NHL Draft, Gord Miller with Bob McKenzie. This is a day when dreams come true for some players and a day when dreams are shattered for others. You think about Joe Thornton finally living his dream and other players taken earlier than they might have been expected to be. There are those who are still sitting here waiting to be picked. Some of them will wait a few hours until the 4th or 5th round to be picked. But you think about a guy like Adam Colagiacomo of the Oshawa Generals. He was ranked 13th overall by NHL Central Scouting. At the midway point of the year, he dropped to 26th. He has not been taken yet. A moment ago, the Vancouver Canucks took Ryan Bonney, and all Adam Colagiacomo could do was shake his head, hoping his moment will come.
Actually, a very interesting story about Adam Colagiacomo. At the beginning of this season, actually in the under-18 tournament at Nelson, British Columbia, Adam Colagiacomo played on the #1 line for Canada. They won the tournament, and he played along with 2 players, Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau. Joe Thornton goes number 1 overall. Patrick Marleau goes number 2 overall. At this particular time, a year ago, Adam Colagiacomo was projected as a top 5 overall pick. Adam Colagiacomo played for a very poor team in London. He ran into some injury problems. It was a bad franchise in disarray. He was then traded to the Oshawa Generals and started to come on a little bit, but overall his performance didn't match the expectations, and he finds himself now in the middle of the second round sitting there hoping, praying that he'll be chosen sometime today. Hey, Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau at the top. Adam Colagiacomo still waiting.
He, along with more than 100 other players, still sitting here waiting for their name to be called, and every pick brings more agony. Back with more when our live coverage of the 1997 entry draft from Pittsburgh continues after this.
My name is Joseph. I drive this bus. I call this bus fun bus because we have a lot of fun in here. We have gold beer. My bus is also gold. This hot dog machine made specially for the snacks to make him more fat. Video, sometimes for X movies, they put the music very loud to make more fun, dancing, more happy. Everything we do here is happy.
New Gold Premium Beer.
Listen, Pierre, we Americans need a good night's sleep. A shower that works.
The power shower.
The French King Tut. We got a ton of work to do, mon ami, and it better be ready, because I know the sponsor. Yeah, well, at least it's quiet.
Make this summer the hottest one yet at Six Flags with the ice-cold taste of Coca-Cola Classic. Grab your friends, grab your family. Grab specially marked cans of Coca-Cola to find out how you can get great discounts to Six Flags. Cool off on exciting water rides. Experience heart-pounding coasters and thrills for the family. Plus, Six Flags has action-packed shows and big-name concerts for everyone. Six Flags, so big, so fast, so close, so go. Grab a Coca-Cola and save on all the action of Six Flags. Always summer fun.
Always Coca-Cola.
Since the Hendrick Racing Team started using Quaker State, they finished 1-2 in the '96 Winston Cup standings. Finished 1-2-3 this year at Daytona. And they've won at Rockingham, Bristol, Martinsville, and Charlotte. Which makes you wonder, is it in their blood or in their engines? Quaker State, the quality the Hendrick Racing Team demands, the quality your car deserves.
Well, welcome back to Pittsburgh, everyone, where the first round has obviously come to a conclusion. About 3 hours ago, we talked about how all the scouting and the efforts of all the scouts all over the country and all over the world had already been taken care of. Their work is done. The work of the general manager is now done, now that the first round selections have been made. And now it's up to the players and the coaches to coach and guide some of these players. Highly hyped going in. Check back in 5 or 10 years. We'll see how good this draft really was. For ESPN2 and TSN, thanks for watching. Bye, everyone.
Select as the #1 pick in the 1997 entry draft, Joe Thornton.
The Bruins' decision was a no-brainer. 17-year-old center Joe Thornton was the top-ranked skater available at 6'4", 198 pounds. Thornton's been compared to Wayne Gretzky and Eric Lindros. He had 41 goals, 81 assists, and spent 123 minutes in the penalty box for Sault Ste. Marie's junior hockey team last year.
I was scared all night. I couldn't sleep, so I'm just glad I'm a Bruin. Oh, it is, yeah. I've well, I've never dreamt to be #1, but I've always dreamt to be in the NHL, so this is step one.
A run on centers in this year's draft. In addition to Thornton, San Jose, who ranked last in the league with 211 goals last season, used their second overall pick on Patrick Marleau. The Kings took Finnish playmaker Olli Jokinen, and the Islanders used the #4 pick on goaltender Robert Luongo, who becomes the highest netminder selected in NHL draft history.
We've had some close and friendly relations with the Cup in recent years. In fact, it's visited a home or two in our area, and legend have it, even one hockey player's swimming pool. But today was the fans' day to get up and close with the Cup once again, and plenty of Penguins fans were checking out our Stanley Cup champion inscriptions on Lord Stanley's Cup and having a picture or two taken as well.
Get ready for the Hometown Sports Advantage.
If Robert Dame's name ends up on the Stanley Cup someday, you'll be remembering the day the Penguins made him their first pick in the draft. That was today. Dame didn't play junior hockey. He went right to the International Hockey League 2 years ago, and he's only 18. Here's my brother Paul with more.
Because of that IHL experience, Robert Dame is one of the only players in this draft who can already call himself a pro. But by going to the IHL at the age of 16, he sacrificed lots of ice time for the chance to play against older and better competition. As a result, he's had to grow up in a hurry.
Something was happening. I got 2 games and I scored couple of goals, and the next game I was sitting on the stand. So I just feel like I couldn't understand that, what's going on here. But, you know, of course, like you said, I feel, you know, I could get more ice time, but I still think about it was hard 2 years for me, but good on the other side too.
Dame has been getting rave reviews since he was a 13-year-old in Slovakia, and he was once projected as a possible #1 pick overall.
Everybody's seen him. Even my kids had seen him when they were 14 years old. He dominated the Quebec tournament in Quebec. Yeah, he's been a talented player all his life. And the interesting story about him is he didn't start skating on ice skates until he was like 9 or 10. He was a roller hockey player, in sort of like Joey Mullen, but in Slovakia. And then he took up ice skating and ice hockey when he was about 9, I think, and developed into a world-class player. He went away from home when he was 12 to pursue this dream, and this is what he wants to do.
You know, I think I was working hard all 2 years, so I think, you know, even if I don't play 50, 60 games, I mean, that's enough for even if you not play the whole season. So, I mean, I feel all right, and I feel confident and more experience as when I came here first time, and as I said, I believe I'm going to make the team next year.
Who helped you with English? You're really good with English. Who did you work with anybody in particular?
Well, I have a girlfriend, American.
Paul Steigerwald, KDKA TV Sports.
Okay, thanks, Paul. The guy who coached Robert Dame last season was in town today, too.
He was a boy trapped in a man's body this year for me. He was a great project for me. It was an opportunity for me to see exactly what a first-round caliber player needs to play to. And his work below the goal line to come to the offensive net is as good as I've ever seen, how he's able to rotate from pressure. And Robert only scores big goals. I mean, every goal he had for him, he seemed to be a tying or a game winner.
And in the second round, the Penguins took a defenseman from North Iowa. He's big, figures to get bigger.
To my size, I got great reach, cover a lot of area, I guess. When I fill out, I'll probably play at 230, 225, so I'll own the front of the net and the corners.
We'll see, and unless you've had entirely too much time on your hands the last few weeks, none of these other names should mean too much to you. But of the 9 picks the Penguins made today, 7 of them were defensemen. That ought to tell you something about what direction they're going in and what was available in the draft. Well, anyway, you've heard the expression that baseball is a game of inches. You probably heard it enough that you never want to hear it again. Well, the Pirates lost today, and it was a matter of feet. How about that? And there they were in New York to play the Mets. And Jason Schmidt
with the 4th pick. The previous high for a netminder was 5th. The Islanders also took defenseman Eric Brewer at number 5. When the Pirates started this current skid, you could blame it on pitching. Now the Young Bucks have corrected their problems on the mound, only to have troubles with their bats. Shea Stadium today, the Pirates and Mets again trailing by a run in the 3rd inning. Mark Smith doubles home Tony Womack, and that ties the game up at 1. Then in the 8th, newcomer Mark Smith comes through again. A run-scoring ground-out, plating Womack. It's 2-1 Pittsburgh leading. But the Mets answer in the bottom of the 8th.
Penguins fans about the stupidity of the NHL. They've probably gotten them from all over the world, telling them to let the players play and start enforcing the rules. Well, if you're still in town, Gary, and the message you got from the fans today didn't sink in the first time, watch this, please.
And now, hockey fans, let's have a rousing Pittsburgh welcome for National Hockey League Commissioner Gary Bettman.
Good morning. It's not that bad.
It's worse, Gary. It's worse than that. Ernie Els is leading by 3 strokes at the Buick. and he had an 8-stroke lead at one time, so he's starting to falter a little bit. And a bunch of guys who you'll see on the leaderboard tomorrow will be here at the Family House on Monday, playing in that tournament. They're all doing well.
Should be a good round of golf or two to see Monday and Tuesday.
A lot of tickets available.
48 hours in Boston, he got to meet Rick Pitino. I don't think he knew who I was, Thornton said. You know, the press conference, people actually want his autograph. It was like, whoa, you know who I am, he said? So Bruins fans weren't exactly on pins and needles when Harry Sinden stepped to the podium.
The Boston Bruins select as the #1 pick in the 1997 entry draft, Joe Thornton from the...
The 6'4", 198-pounder registered 122 points in 59 games last year for Sault Ste. Marie of the Ontario Hockey League. People are using the word Lindros in comparison. Sharks had the #2 pick. They chose center Patrick Marleau. He could be a better skater than Thornton, and he scored 51 goals in the WHL last season. Los Angeles had the 3rd pick. They also took a center. Finnish star Olli Jokinen. He centered his team's top line even though he was the youngest player at age 18. The Islanders made history with the 4th pick. That would be Robert Luongo. He became the highest goaltender ever selected. He comes from the same Quebec Major Junior Hockey League as Patrick Warren Brodeur, and Luongo may have found out that he was drafted by Candygram, as in Candygram for Luongo. The Islanders also picked 5th, defenseman Eric Brewer. He had 5 goals and 29 points last year, and will add to New York's rising young defense corps. Luongo loves candy. Pick 6 through 10, defenseman Paul Mara, selected 7th overall by Tampa Bay, was the highest American-born player to be drafted. He's from Boston. The Bruins chose 8th and took winger Sergei Samsonov. And Samsonov is strongest when his hair is long, Stuart. The Canucks took a banger in Brad Ferentz. Ferentz amassed 300 penalty minutes at Spokane in the WHL, this despite being just 18. Coming up.